Hi everyone, my name is Amber, welcome back to my channel. This is my December TBR. So I have a lot of plans for December. I've got a couple of busy weekends coming up, and then obviously we have Christmas. I am spending Christmas at home in Buckinghamshire this year, and I don't get any time off between Christmas and New Year apart from the standard bank holiday days. However, I am still planning on reading quite a bit, so not only am I going to be reading a bunch of books from my Goodreads Choice Awards TBR, which I posted a video about recently. I'll leave that linked up above and down below if you want to go and check it out. I won't bother repeating all of those books here. I also want to read a ton of books from my own TBR, just because I feel like I really need to start making a dent, and I want to make enough of a dent that I can talk about it in a positive way at the beginning of 2024, and we can talk about my zero TBR challenge and how I'm going to reduce all of my physical TBR. So I've picked out some books here which are a good mixture of contemporary, fantasy, sci-fi, thrillers, which should keep me interested. I am a mood reader, so this stack could change quite dramatically, but I just wanted to show you some books that I'm hoping to read. I'm just trying to figure out where to start, and I think first of all I will show you Harrow the Ninth. So when you're watching this, I don't know if my recap of Gideon the Ninth has been posted yet. It's taking a lot of work, so it might not be up just yet, but if it is, I will leave that linked up above and down below as well. Harrow the Ninth is the sequel to Gideon the Ninth, and I gave the first book 3 stars. I didn't love it. What everyone says this is about is lesbian necromancers in space, but I don't necessarily agree with that, because first of all, Gideon isn't a necromancer. She is a swordswoman. It's actually Harrow who is the necromancer. So Gideon in the first book has grown up on the 9th planet in the 9th house with Harrow. Harrow is like the lady of the house. Her parents are kind of in charge, but they're not very capable of leading everyone in this first house, which is kind of falling apart. So Harrow has taken over. One day Harrow is invited by the Emperor to complete a series of trials, which will then, if she wins, make her one of his personal bodyguard assistant kind of people. They call them lictors, and in order to go and complete these trials, Harrow has to take Gideon with her as her like companion swordswoman kind of person. So Gideon and Harrow go off to this other planet, and the space elements are barely there. So it is all set on different planets, technically 2 different planets, and there's some space travel. You don't really see anything. You see people getting up spaceships and you see necromancers and stuff. So I would actually say this is more of a fantasy book than a sci-fi book, at least at the point that I'm at. So this is the sequel to Gideon the Ninth. After all of that, I'm trying to tell you that I'm going to read this sequel and then do a recap of it, because the 4th book, which is called Harrow the Ninth, I think comes out in 2024. So I'd really like to be prepared for that, and I think the series is going to get quite complicated, so it'll be really good to have a video recap up on my channel so that people can come to it and see what's going on. So I will be reading this one. I also really want to read That Night by Gillian McAllister. I've really enjoyed this author's books before. This is a thriller book. It says here that during a family holiday in Italy, Kathy receives an urgent call from her sister. There has been an accident. Franny hit a man with her car and he's dead. When the police come calling, the lies start, and the 2 sisters begin to doubt their trust in one another. This author writes really twisty books, so I'm really looking forward to giving this one a go, and I think it'll be really fast paced for when I need a break amidst all of this fantasy that I'm about to show you. So I also have The Winter Road, and I've picked this one up purely because it's got winter in the title. I got this one for myself for my birthday. I don't really know anything about it other than it's like an epic fantasy. Someone said that it's perfect for fans of Joe Abercrombie. It's the debut fantasy book, because he's also written other books as well. I don't know if this is the debut. It's definitely the first in a series. It says here that the greatest empire of them all began with a road, the Winter Road. Something about a merchant caravan, mercenaries, dangerous mission to forge a road across this wilderness that was once the person's home. A warlord rises in the wilds. I think it sounds very interesting, so I'm gonna give it a go. I also really want to read Lost in Time. So this is a sci-fi book which is said to be quite mind-bending, and there's a small mention of dinosaurs in here. I don't know if it's, you know, a massive deal, but I do love a good story about dinosaurs. I've read a book by this author before called The Atlantis Gene, and I really didn't like that. I found it really boring, so I'm hoping I find this more interesting because I'm more interested in the subject matter. Basically, this is kind of about time travel. In the near future, criminals or people who are found to be guilty of criminal acts are sent back in time. It says here that the main character, called Sam, is marooned 201 million years ago for a murder that he had to confess to but didn't commit. On a hostile planet surrounded by dinosaurs, he is living on borrowed time. I don't know if this is the first in the series, but I'm looking forward to reading it. Another fantasy book that I really want to read is A Marvelous Light. This one I think is a bit lighter. It says here that the main character is struggling to save his family's estate from his late parents' excesses. A new job seems perfectly timed. However, no one tells Robin that he'll be acting as parliamentary liaison to a hidden society of magicians. So it's set in the real world, but there's a secret society. Very interested in this one, and I've heard really good things about the whole trilogy, so I'm looking forward to giving this one a go. I also recently started and want to continue Portrait of a Thief. This is a contemporary heist sort of book in which a bunch of Asian Americans are, I think they might all be Chinese American, but I can't confirm that. They are all gathered together to become art thieves and perform some heists and basically steal back the treasures and artifacts that the Western world stole from them. So I've read 30 pages so far, and it's basically getting the band together, that sort of thing. And I think this is going to be really good. I really enjoy the author's voice writing so far, and I'm really intrigued by the characters. I'm probably gonna have to start it again because I've forgotten all of their names since I first started reading this, but trust me, it's a good read so far, so I'm looking forward to carrying on. Then I have a few books I want to read for a project that I'm hoping to do soon. It's basically winter holiday themed. The first one is The Tourist Attraction. This is a romance book set in Alaska in a place called Moose Springs. It says here the main character owns a diner called the Tourist Trap. Zoe is visiting Alaska and she falls in love with this mountain town, so I think it's going to be like a small community sort of romance vibe, and also there's a border collie on the cover and I love that, so that's partly why I picked that one up. And also for this project I've picked up Love Light Farms, which is a romance book about a couple who want to save a Christmas tree farm from going out of business. I don't know if she's like grown up there or something. This is the third book in a romance series, so I will be reading this series, companion series, out of order, but I think it's probably okay. Let me know if it's definitely not, but that probably won't stop me from reading this because I really want to give it a go. I also really want to read Bad Things Happen Here. This is a YA thriller. It's set on a desert island, I think. I think there's like mystery and romance. I don't really know much else about it because I don't read synopses for thrillers in case they spoil anything or give off like vibes. I do really enjoy thrillers that are set, or any books really that are set abroad or on deserted islands or are really isolated, so I am looking forward to reading this one. It should be a really quick read. And then I also really want to read The Stranded. So this one got a lot of hype in the UK when it first released. I think the first and second books came out quite close together. At least that's the impression that I got. I've not really heard much about it since, but I did pick this one up because I saw it for cheap. This is set in the future on a previously luxurious cruise ship, but it's now stranded and people have kind of formed a society there, and I think the main characters have to try to escape and get away. I'm really looking forward to giving this one a go. I think this one is YA as well, so it should be a really fast read, and that's kind of what I want in December, like mood reading vibes, and also I want to fly through books and have a really good time. I do of course have a bunch of ebooks to read, but I'm not going to go through all of those. I will quickly show you a few other potential reads that I might get to because I'm really in the reading mood and I really want to have a diverse TBR which will keep me interested and keep me enthusiastic. So with that in mind, the lighting has somehow really changed. I haven't done anything, I promise. I've picked out a few shorter books that I think will be a lot faster to read through, and then I'll be reducing my TBR. I'll be keeping myself engaged and enthusiastic, so I've picked out some shorter ones. First one is Run Me to Earth. I picked this one up in a charity shop in September. I think this one is set in Laos and it's historical fiction, either following three friends or three brothers, I can't remember which, while Laos is going through a civil war. This isn't a historical event or time period that I really know anything about, so I'm very interested to read this one, and it's very short as well, so I think it'll be a really good one to read. I also have Migrations, which is a sci-fi kind of book. It's set in the future and the main character is following the migration of some birds which are traveling from the Arctic to the Antarctic. This one is short, but the writing is also very small, so it's not as short or tiny as it looks, but I've heard really good things about this author. She also wrote another book called Once There Were Wolves is what I was trying to say, and I think her stuff sounds really interesting, so I'm looking forward to reading this one. There's also Birthmarked. This is an old school YA book, and I read the first chapter of this a little while ago and I was very intrigued. So it's a dystopian kind of book. I don't know if it's set in like a different world or if it's, I don't know if it's a fantasy dystopian world or if it's like our real Earth. It basically says that in the future the world was destroyed by a harsh sun. The main character is trying to become a midwife like her mother, and at the beginning of the book she delivers a baby which has been birthmarked. I think what happens is that each month or each period of time, the people who are living outside of the walls, who are basically like living in poverty, they have to deliver a quota of babies to the elites, I suppose, and the main character, who like I said wants to be a midwife, has to deliver these babies to the rich people. I don't know why the babies have to be delivered at this point, but I'm very intrigued by this concept. I can't remember if this is the first in a series. I'm gonna have to look that up. Very intrigued so far, and I really enjoyed the first chapter. And then the last super fast paced one that I want to show you, or at least the one that I want to try before I show you my final fantasy book, is The Edge of Everything. So this is the first in a duology, I think, and I received this years ago from the publisher, and it was unsolicited, and I've just kept hold of it just in case I might want to read it. It says here that X knows only obedience until one bright soul pierces the darkness. Zoe rages against a world turned to ice. Her father's body lies unrecovered in the wilderness and no one seems to care. Their worlds collide, they dare to love, they stand on the edge of everything and risk it all. So I don't know if this is like a dystopian sci-fi kind of book, or if it's going to turn into more of a fantasy. But I think this is one of the first books I ever got that had sprayed edges. But yeah, I was sent this and the sequel unsolicited by the publisher. I do want to try it and give it a go. And then finally, the last fantasy book that I want to read is The Phoenix King. I have been following this author on Twitter for quite a while. I really enjoy her tweets and her marketing. She's doing a great job. This one is a adult fantasy book. I think there are prophecies involved. I don't really know much else. It says here that the main character is the heir to the throne. Her coronation approaches. She'll do whatever it takes to prove herself. She doesn't anticipate the arrival of Yasin, the notorious assassin who now claims fealty to the throne. So is it going to be an assassin princess romance? It might be. I really want to try this. I've seen really good things, and so I think this is going to be another really good fantasy for me to read in December. That's my entire TBR. It's very long and it will probably change because I'll keep adding more books. Like I said, have a couple of days off in December, but I am actually going to be quite busy, so I don't know how much I'm going to manage to read. I'm hoping quite a bit. I'm hoping that the puppy calms down a bit so that I will have some free time. That would be really lovely. Let me know if you've read any of these books in the comments below. Tell me if you enjoyed them. Tell me which ones you'd like me to start with, and I'll speak to you all in the next video. Bye!